Hey traders, Gates Adams, the Forge Trader here. Welcome back to another episode of the Forge Trader podcast brought to you by Apex Trader Funding. If it's time to add to your arsenal, make sure to go to apextraderfunding.com. And today we're going to use promo code NGT. My guest today is Nick, Graves Trading. He's going to share with you his strategies, some of his story, how he got to where he is. Follow along. This is going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to discover what it's taken Nick to get to where he is that has gotten him on the show. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and welcome Nick on today's episode of the Forge Trader Podcast.
Apex Trader Funding presents the Forge Trader Podcast with your host, Gates W. Adams.
How's it going, guys?
Nick, hey man, how's it going, buddy?
Good, how about you?
Oh, I'm fantastic. Hey, I want to thank you so much for taking some time and sharing some of your insights and your strategy and some of the things that have been working for you as a trader. As we all know, this is one of the hardest things any of us will ever do. And there's a lot of people out there that really want to make this work and are still trying to find the best way to make that happen. It's one of the reasons that we do this show. It's one of the reasons Apex Trader Funding exists in the first place, which gives people an opportunity. Let's talk a little bit about you, man. How did you get started in the world of trading?
Yeah, so it's actually a pretty funny story. So I was a college basketball player, played college basketball for 4 years, played basketball basically since I've been 3. And basically we don't get a winter break. So I was kind of just sitting in my room, just chilling, doom scrolling. And I was like, I kind of want to make money. And this was December of 2024, so almost 2 years ago. And I stumbled across this guy who's trading like crypto, like day trading crypto. And he made like $2,000 in like 5 minutes or something. I was like, whoa, like that is like insane. Like how can I do that? And I searched it up, started scrolling a little bit more, and then I kind of got away from the crypto stuff, I think the next week or so. And then I got more into like futures. And then I watched like a couple of videos on that, like ICT stuff. And then since then, it's kind of been history.
Now, I know, of course, the appeal to crypto. A lot of people watched a lot of people make literally millions upon, or even some cases, billions of dollars with very little upfront costs. We've all heard the story of the guy that basically sold $1 billion worth of crypto.
Yep.
For a couple of pizzas, right?
Yep.
So I know what draws people to that, right? But futures takes a little bit more finesse. I mean, that's not so in your face the way that crypto has been for the last 5 or 6 years. What was it that brought you into the side of futures?
Dude, honestly, just like the fact that you don't need capital up front, like that's like the biggest thing for me is like, when it came to like being a full-time student athlete, college basketball player, like I didn't have a lot of money, right? Besides like money the school would give me for being on scholarship and stuff like that. But like I didn't have a job, I didn't have a source of income, I didn't have any of that. And I think that's one thing that people get twisted with futures is like when I'm explaining to them how it works that I'm trading fake money, they don't get it. And it takes like a while for them to understand that. But the fact that I could pay, I mean, with Apex, $9 for an account, $10, like it's ridiculous, right? So the fact that you can pay $10 instead of put $50,000 of your own capital, I mean, it was a no-brainer for me.
What was it that appealed to you about the actual platform of futures trading in the first place? Was there something that resonated beyond just the access to capital?
Yeah. I was definitely like I'm very competitive in everything I do. So like I want to make sure I win everything. I want to make sure I come in first for everything. I want to make sure I'm the best at everything. And I honestly kind of treated futures as like a video game in essence, like because it's like you read candlesticks. It's like a video game that makes money almost. It's like I want to make my strategy so good and so much better than anyone else's. And I was like, oh, if I can watch videos and really gather my strategy, like the sky's are the limit with this kind of stuff. Like all I got to do is look at candlesticks. Like, wow.
How much of your history and the commitment and the discipline that you put into sports, how do you think that translated into your success as a trader? Because we're talking less than 2 years. And my experience says that's not the longest time. That's less time than usual. Was there a big correlation for you that you saw in the habits that you'd already developed?
Oh, I mean, like 100%. Like when it came to being a college athlete, being a full-time student, like people don't really see like how hard it is and having to do 4 years of it, right? And performing at a high level. I played at a Division II basketball school. Like it's high level stuff. And having to wake up at 5 a.m, go to weights, go eat breakfast, go back, shower, classes, 9 to 5, practice, weights, film, like repeating the entire season. It adds up. And being able to trade while being a student athlete, like it completely correlated, right? Because when it came to being a basketball player, I'm always doing stuff, I'm always working hard, but you can never be the best, right? You can never be perfect. And that's the same thing with trading. You can never be a perfect trader. You're always going to make mistakes no matter what. You could have the best strategy in the entire world and still make mistakes. But it just motivated me so much, like with my competitive spirit and putting in the hard work, back testing till 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, on the charts, forward testing when I'm not at practice, like all the above, right? Like it all kind of adds, it's like I'm training, it's like I'm working out on the charts. It all correlated really easily for me, actually.
They always say if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. Not so much because they have the time, but because they have the discipline to get it done. You're
Yep.
talking about a pretty intense schedule before you even jumped into this, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. When you get to a certain point, maybe you're on the chart for 90 minutes a day, sometimes even less. We'll talk about that as far as how it goes for you in a few minutes. But you already had a jam-packed schedule, and yet still you're talking about getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to work out. You're also talking about staying up till 2 doing back testing. I mean, at what point did you say, okay, it doesn't matter what I give up, I'm going to figure this out? What was it that drew you in that deeply?
Yeah, I mean, like when it came to trading, I didn't have a backup plan. Like there was literally no backup plan. When it came to day trading, I was basically all in, and I was a good enough of a college basketball player where I could have played pro overseas. I had 7 or 8 contracts to play in Greece, Lithuania, Rome, like all these different countries. But I never really like loved it that much. Like in order to play pro basketball, like you need to love it. Like you need to love it so much that where you're making 500 to $1,000 a month to play it, right? And obviously, like I'm very like down to earth. Like I kind of understand that where the position I was, most likely not going to the NBA, maybe the G League if I can play overseas for a couple of years. But I kind of put it in perspective, and I was like, if I can be so good at this, why not just set myself up for success? Because I've always been an entrepreneurial mindset where I've wanted to be my own boss, and that's with trading. I mean, you're on the computer for 30 minutes to an hour a day, and you're done, and you have the rest of your day. Like example today, like I traded, now I'm on here with your guys, and I have nothing to do the rest of the day. So that's kind of what motivated me. Like obviously, like when I'm in season and stuff, basketball came first. Like I would be more intense on sleep, but in the off season, I mean, even if I had workouts and stuff, like I'm gonna wake up early and I'm gonna go to bed late. I mean, that's how it works when you want to be so successful at something. And when I want something, like I'm gonna go get it. Like I'm gonna go get it. That's how I've always been.
I've seen this over and over, like I said, with the higher level athletes, because there's a piece of you that's already been developed, and I know
Yep.
for so many of us, that's one of the biggest struggles that we face is we want this. We're willing to put in the work, but when it comes time to make that good decision in the markets, and we really want to make up for a bad trade, whether it was a mistake or it just went against us, even if it was a good trade, we have that deep desire to want to fix it, want to, make up for it and, size up. All the things that we know are bad decisions. And in fact, I've talked about this publicly many times. There have been many situations where I'm just sitting there going, Gates, you shouldn't do this. Click, and I'll hit the,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll click the mouse. I'll enter the trade.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not so much knowing what to do, but having the discipline to do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, and more importantly, not do what you're not supposed to do, right? And so I think that from what I've experienced in my life and from what I've seen from other traders, discipline is a built habit, not something that's innate. And when somebody has been building that since they're 3 years old, it's no surprise that they're going to be on the lower end of the time scale that it takes to be successful, right?
Yep. 100%.
Now, before we actually get into the meat and potatoes of your strategy, you talked about the fact that you went out, you found somebody who was trading something ICT related, and that resonated with you. What was it about the concepts there that made you go that direction versus something else?
Yeah, I mean the one thing about ICT, and I know people have their thoughts and opinions on him as a person, right? Whether he's a good guy, whether he's a bad guy, the stuff he teaches works, right? Whether he stole it, like it works. And the one thing that stood out is how he views the markets. He views it as it's an algorithm that no matter what, the candles are always going to print the same. And being able to put it into a view like that no matter what, that the candles are going to print the same off of specific PD arrays, whatever you're trading, like the sky, if you can really get it down, like it's bread and butter, right? And that stood out to me. And then eventually going through all his playlists and stuff, I basically just learned everything from there, kind of fine-tuned it into my own strategy. And then it kind of just took off from there.
Now, did you have some financial understanding, or had you been around this world at all prior to jumping into trading at this point, or was everything just clean slate?
Brand new, brand
Yeah.
new. Yeah.
I love that. Sometimes that's the best way. You don't develop bad habits or bad expectations that come from other arenas.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
it's like taking somebody who is a professional baseball player and trying to teach them golf, and
Exactly.
their grip
Yep.
is wrong, and
Yep.
they've got these ingrained things that ultimately lead to bad habits. What was the biggest challenge that you had in your journey before you started to see that success? What did you struggle with the most?
Honestly, like it's stuff that I'll kind of get into later, but it's more just like the risk part of things, like
Mhm.
the psychological risk, not like actually like on the charts, but understanding what risk really means. Like there was points in time where like I mean I literally I went into credit card debt because there
Mhm.
was no backup plan. Like
Right.
I mean I'm sure some people have been in situations like this, but like I mean, I was like 20 years old. I was like, "Hey, mom, like, can I get $100 for an eval?" Like, yeah, sure, because like I'm in college, right? My mom loves and supports me, and that's one thing that I love. But like, hey, mom, can I get $100 for an eval? And then boom, blown eval. Okay, let me get another credit card. Like I went into like I think $5,000 to $6,000 of debt because I literally had no backup plan. That was one thing that I struggled with the most at the beginning was just kind of understanding the psychological risk of things. And I actually kind of realized that the worse I would trade, the worse I would play on the court. It was actually kind of funny. It had like a correlation and stuff like that. But that was definitely the biggest struggle of me was definitely just like the financial part of things at the start. But once things got rolling, like it got rolling.
You mentioned the fact that if you had a bad day in the charts, you tended to have a bad day on the court. Now, did that go the other way as well? If you had a bad day in the courts, did it carry through to your trading as well? Was that a two-way street?
No, not really. It was honestly more just day trading. Like if I had a bad game, I'll just be like, oh cool, whatever. I always have another game until the season's over, obviously. And that's one thing that I kind of look back and I'm like, why didn't I just think about it like the markets are always open tomorrow? But obviously that's how I view it now. But obviously back then I was a beginner, I was inexperienced, all the above. So
Right. Well, and of course that's the same kind of mindset that you want to develop as a trader, but you had years of experience of another game, another game, another game. At this point, you had months or a year or whatever it had been at that point of experience in the charts. Yeah, logically, we know that tomorrow will be another day and we'll have another stab at it or whatever the case may be. But the context change, I think, probably has a little bit of an effect there.
yep.
Now, you mentioned your mom and then the support that she gave you, and of course, there's the financial support and the help that she gave you in getting, the evals. But was she supportive of the concept of you being a day trader? Did she understand it?
Not at the start. Not at the start. She was she was definitely not with me or against me. I would say she was more just like, "Oh, cool. Good luck." Kind of thing. Like she doesn't really expect anything to come from this. Like it's one of those like, "Oh, he just picked up on something and give it a couple months and he's not gonna do it anymore." And then when I started losing money, she's like, "Nick, like, are you like you?" Even my dad, like the same thing. Like, "Are you sure you want to do this?"
Right.
I just like, yeah, like I don't see why not. And then once the payout started coming in, like, oh wow, like wow, this stuff actually works. And then kind of just took off from there.
How long did it take you to go from really your first digging into futures trading to get that first payout for you?
I would say 8 months, 7, 8 months was kind of like the time frame. And I think my first payout was like $300 or something, or like $400 or something. Because I want to just get over that psychological hump of taking a payout.
I'm a big believer. I remember my first payout was $500 on the account I had. It was the absolute minimum I could request on one
Yeah.
account, and it might as well have been $1 million for me. I mean, it
Yeah,
was
exactly.
so emotionally charged in a lot of ways. I mean, good, bad, and indifferent. But that really was the first step towards what ended up being a pretty nice run for about 8 months. Not to say that there haven't been struggles. Of course, there have been struggles during, since, all that kind of good stuff. I want to talk about was there a moment for you where you're going through the process, you're dealing with the challenges and frustrations, which is admittedly was not as long as most of us experienced, right? But you're going through this process. Mom and dad are going, hey, are you sure you really want to do this? Is this a good fit for you? You're creating some additional debt. Was there a moment that you wanted to quit that you're like, this maybe this isn't it?
Oh yeah. There was definitely one time. So I was copy trading 5 top step accounts. And back then the max payout was 5K per account. And this is when I was like basically out of debt. I mean, I wouldn't really call it debt. I mean, debt is like thousands of dollars, but I mean, a couple $1,000s on my credit cards. And I needed one more $150 day to get a $25,000 payout on those accounts.
Wow.
And I blew it. It started off, I went for like a 1-to-1 with like 5 micros. I lost 150. And then I went to make 300, lost 300. I went to make 450, lost, and then you can just kind of expect where it took off from there. And then eventually I got up to trading 5 micros to 5 minis pretty quick. And then on it was just gone in an instant. I like cried myself to sleep that night. I told my mom I'm quitting dating. Like it was one of the worst nights in my life. Like genuinely, it was it was bad.
That's wild. And see, that's not an uncommon story. I had a story that was almost identical to that one. It was a pivotal moment in my life for a variety of reasons, but really for me, a moment like that was very eye-opening, that there were other issues going on besides trading. And I had to really start to face that before I could really see my way out of that. Did you find that this was purely a trading issue or was something else going on?
Oh, it was literally just like a mental lapse, bro. Like nothing else going on. I mean, season was fine. It was literally just like it was almost like I was rushing it. Just like I need the money. I need the money. Because I think obviously having the debt kind of played in factor in a little bit. But
Absolutely. When you see, you almost expect, you almost feel entitled to that payout because you've come so far, right?
oh yeah,
And there is a psychological shift that happens. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard and lived of being just shy of that payout and having something like that happen. It does happen. What brought you back? What got you out of that moment and back into the charts?
I mean, I just thought if I did it once, I can do it again. Literally as simple as that. Like I'm not one to obviously like the next hour or so sucked. Like it sucked. Like after seeing the account just be gone. But then I put it in perspective. I was like, if I had a really bad game in basketball, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna go home and cry myself to sleep, or am I gonna go right back to the gym and put shots up? Same thing, like with trading. If I blow my payout, am I gonna cry myself to sleep and not trade for a week, or am I gonna buy more accounts, pass them, and get right back? So that's what I thought mentally. Got me right back into it.
That was pretty quick getting back on the horse.
Yeah, probably like an hour and a half after I bought 5 accounts, half passed them, maybe a little bit out of anger to full port the accounts, but it worked out in my favor. And then after that, I did end up taking a $25,000 payout the next time with that batch of accounts. So
Was there a moment that things just clicked for you where you realized what was holding you back and you had a moment of clarity that allowed you to address that and move forward?
oh yeah, 100%. It was January of this year, December end of December, beginning of January. It was just like flow state. My risk, everything together. I mean, I had a 100K month in January. Like it's literally just like fine tuned, put everything together, copy traded against multiple accounts. Everything finally just smashed. And then from then on, it's just taken off. I'll get about it when I get on the charts. I don't want to say too much about it, but just like understanding risk and what risk really is kind of how I trade.
Well, let's quit dancing around it. Let's go ahead and pull up the charts and let's talk about what it is that has ultimately turned you into a successful trader in the charts. And let's talk about the risk parameters, which are obviously a key component for you. Talk to me about what it is that you look for let's talk about setup first, right? We all know that some of us have a 2 minute, some of us have a 20-minute pre-market
Yeah.
routine. What are you looking for before you actually are willing to pull the trigger?
I use high time frame stuff a lot. So obviously the first thing that I'll do is kind of start on the daily, right? Daily time frame. Obviously, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna go into like the concepts. I'll kind of just go into what I trade, and if you know the concepts, then you know them. If not, then you don't. This overall time frame, kind of what we're looking at right here, right? This is what I pulled up this morning. So this is the daily time frame. You can go to the weekly as well. If you guys don't know this, higher time frame always holds more power. So that's kind of where you want to start. Time is fractal, so the same candles you see printing on the weekly, they're going to print on the 1 minute. Except obviously the weekly is going to be 1 week and the 1 minute is going to be however many 1 minute candles are in a week. So right here, kind of what I was looking at pre-market, we had this weekly low inside of a weekly fair value gap that we swept. It was also a monthly fair value gap. So obviously just from there, like I'm looking for longs, right? And that's literally how I get my bias. Just instantly like that. That's all I had to see to get my bias for today. That's all I had to look at. Now, obviously, we're going to go down to 2 different time frames. The main time frames I use are 30-second and 1 minute for entries. And then more for like buys, it's 5, 15, 30 hour, 4 hour, daily, weekly, monthly, is what I look at. And Looking at this 4 hour, we swept it and we got like an immediate like reaction off of here,
Right.
as you can see. Really, really clean reaction. We also got like an hourly CSD as soon as we swept that right here. And you can see here, look how we respect this hourly CSD. This line right here, we come into it, continue higher, I think like 4 different times.
Right.
From then on, I was just kind of looking for longs. One really, really big tool that I use is discount and premium. I use a little bit of OTE as well. What I'm going to say right now is I don't have a like, okay, X plus B equals Y entry. Like, I don't do that. I don't go like liquidity sweep, IFBG. I trade very discretionary, but the way I trade is I basically teach and preach how to use ICC concepts to trade. Because how I trade is I can trade in any market. I could trade the accumulation, I could trade the manipulation, I could trade the distribution. I could trade any of them because I understand how the market works, right? But kind of just looking at this, like if you use like the discount and the premium from this swing high to this swing low, you can realize that we never hit the true premium of the range, right? If you guys understand discount and premium, you would never want to buy if we're in premium and you never want to sell if we're in discount, right? So I wanted long, like today my bias was I basically wanted longs up until like this 0.5 level. Don't worry too much about this 0.7, 0.6, 0.3, 0.2. That's all just OTE levels for reactions. But this is basically the outlook. 15-minute kind of what I want to see was market open. I basically just wanted to see us continue higher from where we're at. This was, where was it, 9:30. Want to see us continue higher. TP would have been basically 0.5. As you can see, we edged this by like, I think it was like 30 points or something. So we got break even, but that's basically kind of how I look at it. High time frame always holds more power for me. I use high time frame PD arrays, and there's something called PD array refinement. I can't really speak too much on it on here, but it's basically like the secret sauce that I think not a lot of people know about and use. It's basically just preaching that, like, I'll give like a rough example, right? So if we have this 4 hour like rejection block, right here, since we swept liquidity, we created a wick off it and we closed above it. This would be an example of a rejection block from ICT standards right here, and basically refining it. So this is a 4 hour rejection block. What is inside of this 4 hour rejection block? Oh, it's a 1 hour rejection block. Now we can even fine tune it more. We can make the 4 hour rejection block a little bit smaller. What's inside this 1 hour rejection block? Oh, we have a 30-minute rejection block. Now we can even fine tune this a little bit smaller now. You see how each and every time frame I'm moving is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, so you can get more precise entries. So I go here, boom, there's a 30-minute rejection block. We go to the 15. Oh, what's that? So now there's no rejection block anymore. There's now just a basically CSD order block. And then from then on, I mean, you keep going down time frames. Obviously, there's going to be fair value gaps. A 15-minute order block, there's always going to be some sort of 5-minute fair value gap in that. Obviously, I know that off the top of my head because it comes with time. But now, I mean, we're just continuously like getting smaller and smaller. What's inside this 5-minute fair value gap? Oh, there's going to be 1 minute fair value gaps, obviously. So that's kind of how it works, is PD refinement. This was one of the levels that I was looking at for us to take out, because this kind of went with OTE as well. If we took this high to this low, it matches up. Oops. This high to this low, you can see it literally matched up perfectly with 0.2 OTE. Like, I think this would have been a really clean level. We never got down there. Obviously, you got to be patient with trading sometimes, but this is still a level I could look at. But now we've kind of ran up another 100 points. So that's just kind of an example of kind of how PD array refinement works. It's something that I don't know how many people use. I'm really the only person that I have seen like teach it, or at least trade with it, that is social about it and vocal about it. But that's basically kind of how I trade. And I always enter on the 1 minute, using high time frame stuff to kind of get where my levels would be. I trade off levels, discretion, order flow, all of the above.
Now, is there, so you obviously showed the range. Are you going to look at a different range and looking at the fibs, OTEs on a 5-minute, something, or 15-minute along those lines?
Yeah. So there's always going to be different ranges, right? So like the range that I was referring to would basically be like my range for levels. So like if I draw this range out right here, this is like the 0.3, 0.2 down here. Right. So maybe if I'm anticipating price to go down to there, then I can go to the 5-minute and I can anticipate shorts. Here's literally a prime example that's forming as we speak. If we're expecting shorts to play down, because I think eventually we're going to draw here. I think this is a great draw. This 4 hour rejection block right here. And what's inside of this 4 hour rejection block, like I already showed you, 1 minute gap, 5-minute gap, 30-minute rejection block, 0.2 OTE. What we can do is we can use a smaller range. And this is a trade that I probably might have taken. But if we go like this, boom, what happens? We basically get up to 0.6, 0.7. This is your smaller range. So you can look to short from this smaller range if you're anticipating this bigger range to get taken out. So you can use them in both directions, vice versa, right? If we're down here, we can look for a retracement for longs to take it to like 0.6 or 0.7 OTE above.
You said you trade primarily pretty discretionarily. Did you start that way and develop that way,
Nope.
or were you structured and developed
Yeah.
into that with experience? I said I think that's an important distinction.
Oh yeah. So I holy candle. Oh, we just had a 100-point candle. Maybe Trump tweeted or something. But I actually started with ICT 2022 model. So liquidity sweep, fair value gap, market structure shift, entry, target, whatever. I slowly changed throughout it. I actually trade something it's called the Nick Wick theory, basically. And that comes into risk. I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek and kind of how it works. But basically the Nick Wick theory is all about managing risk and having high RR. That is the main premise of kind of what comes with it. Like example today, so around I think 11 o'clock basically, we had this like 15-minute gap, 5-minute gap kind of right here. Let me just remove everything. And it was around, so if we use this as well, it was a pretty clean trade. If we go from here to here, we basically hit 0.3, 0.2 of the range. And inside of that range, we had this 15-minute gap right here. Boom. And then inside of this 15-minute gap or around the 15-minute gap, I kind of look over here. What do we have? We have this 1 minute sell side right here. It's really, really small, but it's paired with a 1 minute gap. So we have this 1 minute gap paired with sell side. What can I expect? I basically expect price to come, resweep this low and continue higher. Obviously, this is all hindsight. Like it's not like, oh, I call this out in a second, but just looking at it, like this is how it works. Just giving you guys an example of how it would work. So if this is something that you're targeting, right? This is called the Nick Wick theory. So I don't really use limits. I always mark it. So let's say as soon as this sweeps right here, as soon as this sweeps, I enter.
So you're not looking for a rejection candle. You're just as soon as it hits.
As soon as it hits and I see some sort of rejection, right? Okay. So in this case, right here, this closure would have scared me, right? Mm-hmm. I most likely wouldn't have entered. Why? Because we closed below it, but we still were getting rejection. So I still could have been like, okay, maybe we're good. All we did was we reswept this low right here. So as soon as we resweep this low and get rejection, I'm entering, right? And in this case, I have a 5-point stop loss. So if I go in with 2 minis and I have a 5-point stop loss, then the RR is just ridiculous because most likely you're going to target some sort of like internal highs, which would have been most likely these highs. So just from this trade, you have a 31-1 RR, right? But I would have gotten stopped out because in the Nick Wick theory, what I teach is, and this might be a little bit of TMI, but I'm on here. I'll give out some free sauce to you guys. But I would have gotten stopped out here because as soon as I see a sweep, my stop loss instantly goes at this wick low. Instantly. Because if I think that this is the true manipulation, this should be a protected low. Right. So we shouldn't come back down here. And also, we sweep it and we pump up 22 points after that. So this should be a protected low. But with the Nick Wick theory, what happens? We come up here and we mitigate this. If this was our initial stop loss and placement that we're looking at right here, our stop loss goes at this wick low and our TP, let's say, is up here somewhere. We are already up as soon as we enter over 20 points. Right. So if I see I'm up 20 points, I'm instantly moving break even. Right. So off of that, I'm break even. Boom. There's literally no risk on the table anymore. But obviously we do get break even. We come and resweep. But this is what is beautiful about the Nick Wick theory is we come down, we resweep this low, and then look what happens. We get another reaction. Boom. There's an entry. And then look what happens off of this. This is even a tighter stop loss. You put your stop loss at this new wick low. Your entry is there. As soon as you see rejection, you enter at the candle. You are now risking 5 points, a little like 0.5 points less than the other trade, targeting this external high or whatever. Mm-hmm. And you have a 35-1 RR, and this trade ends up playing out.
Is this a typical trade for you in terms of risk reward? Because those are
I trade high RR. I trade pretty high RR. So anywhere from like 10-1, all the above. Mm-hmm. But like it's like it's insane. Like just the fact that you can like that's one thing that I have a staple of is managing risk. Right. I have a good psychological ruling of risk when it comes to actual like in real life money, and then also like on the charts risk.
Right. When we talk about high RR, what we're generally doing is we're overcompensating for a low win rate. Now, If that's not the case, of course, that's like that unicorn strategy that we're all looking for.
Mhm.
But do you find that you get a reasonable win rate on this, or are you just willing to take the hits one after another, knowing that if you get a 30 to 1, you're compensating for a lot?
Yeah, so that's one thing that's great about prop firms is if I'm risking $200 to $400 per trade, I could lose 5 trades in a row and then hit a 5K, 6K trade and get a max payout.
Yeah.
Right. But obviously, like I said, I'm discretionary. So I'm not going to trade this fixed RR every time. If I see a continuation model, boom, I'll take that. Right. And that's obviously going to be a completely different risk to reward. But just in this case scenario, this is basically what I'm founded on
Okay.
is the Nickwick theory and understanding this. But like, hey, like today, like we had like a continuation long, like example right here. Like we have like this 5-minute gap paired with a 1-minute gap, anticipating us to continue higher because we're delivering off of a 50-minute gap. I just enter off the gap, and then there's like another 100 points. So it's all discretion, right? Understanding how the market's going. That's what comes with time on the charts.
Right. And we know this is all obviously all fractal. You mentioned that you're basically taking these entries on the 30-second or 1 minute. Do you have them open side by side and you see what's playing out, or is there?
No, I normally just have the 1 minute open. I mean, sometimes like, especially like sometimes market open, if it's pretty volatile and there's no 1 minute, sometimes I'll enter off the 30-second. But no, for the most part, it's just the 1 minute I enter off of.
At what point did you feel comfortable being a discretionary trader? I mean, was there a certain amount of financial success that you hit, or was there a certain amount of experience that you had in the charts? When were you able to make this transition into being more of a discretionary trader, which for most traders becomes a very dangerous proposition?
Yeah. So for me, it kind of just clicked one day. Like I was
Mhm.
still trading a model,
Mhm.
and I was looking at it in retrospective as I was trading. I was like, oh, wait, that setup looked clean. Oh, wait, that looked clean. Oh, wait, that looked clean while I'm waiting for my setup. And if I'm looking at the charts, I'm like, oh, wait, like this is all coming together for me. I'm seeing this as I was like, if I can enter off of this, take TP here, enter off this, take TP. Like it just all came together one day. I was like, I'm seeing the charts as if like you can enter and trade anything basically.
So you saw the numbers dripping down just like the Matrix, huh?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Nice. Let's talk about what it looks like on the other side, because look, I say this all the time, and I mean this with a lot of sincerity. This is the hardest thing I've ever done, and I've done some pretty hard things in my life. And I know
100%.
for most traders, it's the same, right? And the reality is, this is not something that most people are going to pick up in 6 months and start seeing an income out of, right? It takes some resilience. It takes some patience. It takes a lot of, I think, inner work in learning how to get rid of that guy that says, "Gates, you shouldn't do this," click. I think all of that exists within all of us to a certain extent. And we're never going to eliminate it. I think the idea is to overpower it with good habits and discipline and the things that we have the ability to work on, right? But that doesn't happen in 6 months for most of us. For most of us, we're talking 3 years or more before we really start to see a high level of consistency. Obviously, for you, it happened a little quicker than it happens for most. But what happens when you get there? What does your life look like now that you've realized that this is something that can be not just I can see money in my pocket, but I can do this consistently and see returns month after month after month?
It honestly sounds bad, but like my perspective of money is just horrible now, bro. Like, oh my dude, like I used to be like, oh, I have to buy one evaluation, like, oh, $100. Now it's like, oh, I can blow through $1,000 to $2,000 in a day off evaluations and be like, oh, like it's whatever, you know. And it's just like that's just how it comes. Like when you're making X amount of money from trading, and it's like whoa, like I could have never imagined this. But for me, it's like I always want more, not from a greed aspect, but from a competitive aspect.
Right.
Like I always want to be the top dog in everything that I do. I want to be the best trader. I want to make the most money from trading. I want to be all the above. So I'm gonna continue to keep doing that because you got to make sure that to separate yourself, you can never get comfortable. No matter how good of a trader you think you are, you can never get comfortable.
As you went through this process, at some point you decided that you were going to share your trading journey online. And I sort of inferred from one of the comments that you made earlier that your big day where you lost your $25,000 payout was documented. Were you documenting this on social media before you got there?
One thing that I will say is if you guys are watching this and considering getting into social media, don't do it. Like I'm gonna be as blunt as possible.
Mhm.
Like it is I'm telling you, because people, there's always people that text me, be like, hey Nick, like I'm actually like I'm really curious into getting into like this content stuff. Like what are your thoughts? Like maybe I want to start, like do not do it. Like until you're consistently profitable and you can prove to yourself that you're consistently profitable, it's just gonna take a toll on your mental. I literally like I started posting, and I would say, what was it? February 2025. I just remember like there was days where like I would lose a trade, and then I'd be like, oh, I have to post about this now. Like I don't have
Right.
a choice. Or like even when I was trading, I would be like, oh my gosh, like I need to take a trade to post. Like,
Mhm.
and that messed me up. Like,
Right.
so I actually took a 4 month break from social media, or like 3 month, 2 to 3 month break from last summer,
Mhm.
from May to July. I didn't have any payouts.
Mhm.
I came back with payouts, and I came back basically profitable after that.
Mhm.
And then since then, it's been bread and butter. But it was hard a lot of times having to post stuff I didn't want to post, blowing that 25K payout. Like, obviously, I was not excited to post that in any means, right? Even though it got a lot of views because I blew a 25K payout, like, it was not fun to post any of that stuff. But I really wanted it up there for people going through the same stuff so they can be like, wow, this guy went through it and look where he's at now. Right. So that's why that was like the main point is I wanted to be as realistic as and transparent as possible. That's one thing that I founded myself on is transparency. I show everything. I show blown accounts, I show payouts, I show all the above. Like on TikTok 2 weeks ago, I think I blew like 12K in evals in a week, right? But then I responded with a 30, 40K payout the next week. I'm as transparent as possible. I really show like what it takes, because I never want to get anyone into the business if they don't really see the other side of things. Like, yeah, you see the Lamborghinis, you see the high rises, you see the high P&Ls, but you don't really see what it takes to get to that point.
It's funny. I had the same philosophy. I started the original iteration of the Forge Trader podcast almost a year before I got my first payout. And the whole idea was, I think this is going to work. This is what I'm working on to try to get there. And that was almost a year of a lot of the same thing, of having those terrible moments and just going, okay, well, I've committed to basically reporting this in some form or fashion. And yeah, I mean, it can be very demoralizing when you're telling the bad stories 10 times as often as you're telling the good stories, or you're telling the good stories up to a certain point and you start to see that pattern of I'm getting close and I blew it all, or whatever the case may be. So what ultimately brought you back? What made you decide, okay, I took the time off, I've started to see some success, I'm going to go back to social media and I'm going to start documenting this success side of this? Why did you feel that was something you wanted to do?
I wanted to prove everyone wrong. That was really it. Because when I said that I was gonna kind of go AFK and go ghosts,
Hmm.
people were like, "Yeah, this guy's not coming back." Blah blah
Right.
blah blah blah. My Discord was saying the same stuff. I also wanted to prove my parents wrong, even though they were supporting me. But I also wanted to prove them wrong, prove my friends wrong. Really, like no one believed in me, and I came back, and the rest is history.
It's quite the story. And the reality is that this story, it's not unique. It's not common. If it was common, we'd be having a lot more of these conversations and they would be just par for the course, right? It's
Yeah,
not unique, but it's not common. But what I hear over and over and over again, because what I end up finding is that the guys and the girls who make it, who finally start to see that consistency, that profitability, there is sort of this compulsion to share that. And I don't think it's about ego. For some people it is, of course, but I don't think
yes,
it's about
yes.
ego. I don't think it's about selling a course. I don't think it's about all of that. But I know the struggles that I've gone through in my trading journey and continue to go through today, ups and downs, roller coasters, all of those things. For you, what was the message that you were trying to get across when you decided to come back, or even when you went in the first time? Like we know this is hard. We know this is difficult, and we know that eventually there became a point where you started to see that success. What was the message that you were trying to deliver to the audience?
In all honesty, I think the main message was just like, look where I started, look what happened to me, and look where I'm at now. Like I
Mhm.
just wanted to show the entire process as transparently as possible.
Right. And this is an industry that lacks transparency sometimes.
I can't really, obviously, I can't say too much, but a lot of people you think are these people on the internet and are taking these payouts, they're not.
Right.
Because prop firms literally have the data and can show how many payouts they've taken. Obviously, I'm not going to name names or anything, but yeah, it's a lot of fake people in this industry for sure. And that's one thing that I found myself on, is to not be fake. Like even when I'm live streaming, say I lose a trade or something, oh, this guy has no payouts, blah blah blah. Like I'll literally pull up over $300,000 in payouts on live stream and show everyone. Like I have nothing. I have nothing to hide.
As much as I hate to say it, and I'm not going to say it's a rarity. There are a handful of people that really is the intent, and that really is. I know for me, when I started documenting my journey, it really was more for me just to be able to look back and see what I had gone
Mhm.
through in the hopes that it was ultimately going to go well.
Yeah.
And when it finally started to go well, to me, the idea of just being that message in somebody's head that says, "Hey, you can do this." Like there was a point
Yeah.
in my journey where it just was absolutely an impossibility for me. And I have a lot of trading trauma from almost 30 years
Mhm.
ago that I've talked about publicly on a lot of my social. That is probably bigger trauma than most traders will ever experience. Not everybody, but it's a pretty it's a pretty rough story. And so the idea was, if I can get the message across that this is possible. It's just not going to happen as quickly as you think. But if you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to put in the time, this is absolutely something that anybody can accomplish. You just have to know what it is to work on and how to get there, and learn
Yeah.
from the people who have done it. That's the whole reason this show exists, right? One of the things that spurred me on was, by the time I got my first payout, I had probably done 2 or 300 interviews with successful traders. Like, we don't ever interview people who haven't done it yet. And so this is why I continue to do this, and why this is so meaningful to me, is because of how much of an impact this process has had on my own journey, and
Yes.
continuing to have these conversations and share these experiences. The trading community, the idea that we have somebody that we can talk to, that we can share experiences with, and hey, be there, as a shoulder to cry on when necessary, and be there as a cheerleader when the moment comes, is so incredibly valuable. And again, why I am so very passionate about doing this show. First of all, I want to thank you so much for your time. This has been incredibly valuable, not just to me, but I think to anybody who has the opportunity to watch this. I really I want to dig into your presence on social media. What is it that you're actually showing if somebody goes to follow you at Nick Graves Trades, which I think you're on TikTok and Instagram, right? Primarily.
Yeah, Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, all the above. I show a lot of things, right? Like I show the transparency, I show losing, winning, I show trade recaps, education, prop firms, what prop firms to trade, the best accounts for a trader. If you're just looking for someone to get a laugh with or actually learn from or just hang out with, like I live stream every single night, 5:45 Eastern on TikTok, where I live trade in front of everyone for free, over 700 people normally a night.
Wow.
I enjoy doing that, so it's fun for sure.
At what point did you get hooked up with Apex and decide that this was a partnership that was meaningful to you?
3 months ago. They're actually one of the first prop firms that reached out to me, my journey and stuff like that. I obviously Apex is one of the best prop firms that's been around for a while. They've been doing a lot better recently with their new accounts and all the above. I think they're easily a top 3 prop firm right now with what they give. I'm never going to push a prop firm out to my community that I don't believe in,
Right.
which is why I went with Apex, because with what they give to their community.
Now, at this point, you're still presumably trading prop, or have you had any conversations about going live?
Yeah, I trade. I have a live account, mainly just prop. But there is definitely a live accounts that I have. I'm actually considering doing $1,000 to $10,000 challenge, and after I complete that, a 10K to 100K challenge. So
When you did the first live account, did you run into any sort of a psychological shift?
I blew it the same day. Like my first live account was like $500, and I was
Right.
like, oh my gosh, like
And I can almost hear the back of the brain thoughts. Hey, if I can get this thing to like 2 grand real quick, then I have like my standard drawdown on a 50K account.
exactly. Yep,
So it's
exactly.
not about trading that $500. It's about turning that $500 into 2 grand so that you can trade it well. Is that kind of what
Yep,
happened? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's the same story. As much
Yep.
as I hate to say it, we can absolutely learn from each other. You also have a mentorship, right? Now, I know this is not something where it's like, hey, I'm going to mass market this thing out to everybody, but there's a small group of people that you actually work with directly. Talk a little bit about what you're doing there, and if somebody is interested in what you're doing, how they would go about talking to you about
Yeah,
that.
so I work with about 20 to 30 people individually. One thing that I'm very big on about is having one-on-one time. I think a lot of
Mhm.
mentorships, they charge way too much money and they actually don't even end up learning from the so-called mentor. They end up learning
Right.
from other people that they've taught who they pay to teach them. I teach everyone one-on-one. So I'm very
Mhm.
big on the relationships community. You get live trading every single morning, 9:30 New York time. You get all my videos to watch. You get one-on-one sessions. I actually have 2 hours every single day, Monday through Friday, marked out just for students to hop on. And if you want to apply, it's through my website. It's www.ngtrades.com. There's an application on there if you want to fill it out. Obviously, I don't accept everyone. I want to make sure that I'm working with people that I'm relatable with.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, my students have done over $200,000 in payouts in the first like 5-6 months of this year, which is really good.
I mean, that's remarkable results. And obviously, you've chosen a model that is not necessarily scalable. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
reason that these gurus have coaches within the framework, so that they don't have to provide all of that time. You've chosen a completely different model, which means you can't scale this up to 100 people. It's not reasonable at the the model that you're doing. So yeah, if this has resonated with you, if this is something that you as a viewer want to check out, my recommendation is go check Nick out on his socials. I would say Instagram and TikTok primarily. So ngtrades.com. You can go check that out. You can go put the application on there. This is not a sales pitch. If this is something that has resonated with you and you want to go deeper, take that step. That's absolutely up to you. And if this has been valuable to you, if you learned something today, or you've been inspired, or you just said, hey, I'm going to give this a little bit longer, I'm going to take it a little bit further, make sure to show Nick some love. Go to apextraderfunding.com, and on your next set of evaluations, make sure to use his code NGT, just like you see up there on the screen, and check that out. Use code NGT, obviously, in the background as well. And show him some love, show him some appreciation for taking his time today and sharing his experiences with you, his journey, as well as some of his strategies and some of his wins as well. Nick, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking your time today.
Of course.
This is always so inspiring to me. And as much as I know my trading has gone through the ups and downs and the roller coasters, having these conversations is a big part of me continuing to fight the fight. Go check me out on all the socials at The Forge Trader as well. We'll be back again next week with yet another episode of the Forge Trader Podcast, brought to you by Apex Trader Funding.
Thank you for listening to the Forge Trader Podcast, presented by Apex Trader Funding. For more information on how to get your own funded account, head to apextraderfunding.com.